All right. So what I've seen a lot with some of the stuff that you guys have been doing is slowly but surely you guys are getting significantly better, which is awesome. And what I want to do is kind of help you out a little bit as far as overcoming some of the common things that I see, common like pitfalls that I see people falling into. So right now I have Sabrina on camera here. Here you go, Sabrina. You can like, whoa, crazy! Look at that. It's like a weird, yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you, Sabrina. All right, so Sabrina here is posing for us, but really I've only got a handful of tools, as you guys can see here, right? Now again, obviously whenever you do your final drawing, you are going to be using only charcoal, right? So as you feel more and more comfortable, feel free to kind of start going back to basics with charcoal. But again, as you're learning, a number 2 pencil does just fine as well. Also, something that you're going to want to do is kind of have an X-Acto blade somewhat handy. Because what you're going to do is, let's say after I've done my initial sketch, maybe like day 1, I only do regular charcoal and I'm just kind of lightly sketching and rubbing, kind of sketch and rub. You may need a fine, detailed line. In that case, you can't put this in a pencil sharpener, so you just take out your blade and kind of give it a little sharpie sharp. And you get a nice, pretty good fine tip there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Anything's better than, nothing. Okay? And now I have a mess. All right. So, goodbye mess. All right. So here's the deal. What I'm going to do is basically this. I'm going to use that kind of bark style by kind of drawing on some basic line forms to get kind of Sabrina's overall silhouette like we talked about before. I'm not worried about perfection, right? I'm just kind of eyeballing stuff. I'm also going to use that comparative measurement where you kind of stick your hand out the whole way and kind of line things up to each other. It'll really help you out. So, Sabrina, this will be pretty weird for you because you'll get to watch yourself be drawn, which is like, it's weird Inception-y kind of stuff. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is we talked about kind of the path of action, right? Now, Sabrina's sitting here, and I'm seeing her pretty profile, right? So what I'm going to do is kind of just follow what I see of her back. And again, I'm only using straight lines to the best of my ability, right? So let's see. I'm going to get a line there. Okay, let's see. Looks like maybe her shoulder's about there-ish. Let's see, head is kind of here, neck comes back just a little bit. So there's a head in here somewhere. I don't really know where yet. I'm just kind of placing down a couple little lines to kind of see how things kind of line up. So we come down here, our hips go a little bit straighter, straight across the legs, and there's a chair in here somewhere. I'm trying my best to look up at the model, Sabrina in this case, as much as I can. I'm trying my best, not necessarily to replicate what I see, but replicate the lines and the correlations, right? So she has her forearm right about here. I'm trying to think about what angle in comparison to like her thigh or to her back here. What angle is that at? If you ever did really well in math class with like a protractor, basically just get a protractor in your brain and think about like, okay, 14 degrees by 6 degrees or whatever. I don't know, I was never good at math. All right. Looks like her shoulders somewhere here. And you can see how this is very quickly kind of that bark style of just putting down basic understanding of where everything is. So kind of like, here's her rib cage, and I can always go back to that head, make sure that my proportions are okay. Rib cage kind of comes in, it goes just behind the arm there. Okay, back here, and obviously she's facing the projector, so she's looking away from me right now. So I can see a little bit of shadow kind of under her chin right here. It's not a beard, Sabrina, I swear. Okay, comes around. No. All right, good enough. Cheek. And comes around. So it looks pretty good. Let's see, shoulder, head, okay. I was just doing a little bit of comparative measurement. Her hair comes down, kind of goes around over here. Notice how this is still pretty Robotronic looking. I mean, it is not pretty yet. A little bit of hair in front of her head there. So somewhere there's a face in there, I promise, Sabrina. It's in there. Jaw kind of comes. See, I'm changing that jaw. I had it pretty flat right there, and I can definitely see that I was wrong. It is going up at a sharper angle. The neck kind of comes out just a little bit more. So minor alterations everywhere. And again, what's nice about charcoal is you can see I'm not really erasing, I'm just kind of rubbing out all those little details. And what's nice too is I can kind of give it a once over, and the picture is still there, you know, but it's so much softer. Can get rid of all that junk, and I don't have to worry about if it's cleaned up or not. So the back of the chair kind of comes down. There's a little bit of an arc to it. Basic kind of just blocking in ideas. All right, now I got to figure out how far this comes. So I could do the old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or if I wanted to, kind of get a line. Let's see, from your forehead, Sabrina. If I figure out there's a line here somewhere, if I kind of get that figured out at the kind of the degree. Looks like, yeah, okay, all right, I can do that. Something, I don't know, about here-ish is what my brain is seeing. On your kneecap, and your leg kind of comes down from there, right? Now, I'm not going to worry about finishing up the detail down here. Obviously, you know, Sabrina, you have legs. But they're in there somewhere, and I'll do the feet and stuff later. Let's see. Chair comes out. Leg down around in there. Kind of pencil that in. I can see a little bit of depth. Now again, for like the chair, maybe at this whole point, I'm like, okay, things are kind of where I want them to be. Everything's lining up. It's looking pretty good. But you know what? The chair, it's just easier to block in that chair. It's so much easier. So, all right, so I can just kind of turn it into a quick little one-point perspective kind of block. Right? Gosh, that was so much easier. So again, kind of like talking about before, about how much detail do we need, or for that matter, using a little bit of a combination in my tools to figure out, you know, okay, well, blocking in might work better here, or whatever like that. A little bit of the back of the chair, I can see just a tidbit. It's kind of in there somewhere, and it kind of fades behind your back and your hair. Hair kind of comes down. Shoulder comes on top of that hair. Alright, sleeve. Do a little bit more detail. Now I can't see a lot of your face, because again, you're looking away from me here. So I'm going to draw what I can see and hope for the best. Okay. Alright, so at this point, let's see, there's your dress here. So at this point, that's your proportions. Theoretically, and again, it is a drawing still, but theoretically I should be able to take this, kind of directly line it up with Sabrina, and it would match pretty well, right? So at this point, if there's something that's really giving me trouble, and maybe her ankle right here was just really bothering me, or maybe there's some foreshortening, I could always do a little bit of blocking in to make sure that that's locked in. But at this point, the picture's good, you know what I mean? So now what I want to do is start thinking about the next step. And the next step is I want to start thinking about lighting and shadowing. So Sabrina, here we go. You get some weird, like, there you go, some weird inception stuff going on again. I'm going to turn on this light. Oh, there you go. Whoa. All right. So there you are. You can say hi if you'd like to. So I can now see that there's obviously a lot of highlight right here. And really, like, this side of the arm is really pretty dark, right? I don't want to do an outline. Right? I don't need an outline. I can see most of her head is in shadow. There's a little bit of her jaw showing, but really that's just a big block of just black, right? So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to work some of that shadowing into my picture, right? So just like you guys did before with that Bargue style. Let's see here. Oops. Turn him around. All right. So this is almost all darker here, kind of pushing the chest and the kind of upper torso back behind this arm. And to do that, to add some more depth, all I have to do is darken it up. Okay, there's a little bit right here. Oops. 5 minutes left. Sorry about that. So, we've got some hair kind of coming down here a little bit. Now notice all I'm doing is shadow. I'm not worried about detail, anything like that. Okay? I'm just thinking how dark is too dark. Like I said, this whole head really is almost entirely in shadow. And it gets a little bit lighter as it comes toward the light source. Remember, our light source is over here. I can always go back with a kneaded eraser and lighten things up or darken them if I need to. I know her hair is going to be darker than, say, like the rest of her dress here. Right? A little bit of that cheek kind of showing through. Excuse me. Let's see. Now, so the arm is really bright. Okay, it's very well lit, which means that if I want the back of her torso to stand out, I have to push it back into space. I do that by adding some contrast, and it looks like a lot of that contrast, that shadow, actually comes from the shadow of the chair. Kind of blend that shadow along. Again, remember, it's not an outline, it's just a little bit of a cast shadow. And as her arm goes back here, I'm going to add on just a little bit of shadow, let that kind of fade back into space, kind of retaliate back there. Alright, I've got a little bit of this arm showing. Again, all we're looking for at this point is building on a sense of depth. That's it. No detail whatsoever. And again, you can see her head is still kind of this weird lump. No detail, I'm not there yet. I'm just worried about depth. Right? You can see there's some shadow kind of right in here. It goes underneath her leg right there. If I feel it's too harsh, again, it's charcoal, so I can just fade that out. Right? And already that looks like it pushed the leg behind the dress there. A little bit of wrinkle. Right here is more of that cast shadow. Fade it out. This gets actually a lot darker. Let's see. Alright, so just kind of wrapping things up before the end of class here. I can obviously go along, and then there's a little bit of the dress that kind of hangs over here. Ties up into that wrinkle. So then you can see I'm already starting to kind of easily, naturally migrate from these heavy shadows into, well, okay, well there's a line here. How does that work? Well, there's some shadow. I need to pull that shadow around. Okay. So understand, you may prefer blocking in, and if so, stick to it. It's working for you. But if you're finding that blocking in is giving you weird robotic-looking people and it's not doing the job, maybe this style might be better for you. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sabrina. And we'll call it a day.